Today's delivery of Friday comes with a bonus gift of awesome. I'm Carl Azuz. Hope you're having a great day so far. The first story on our last show of the week plays out between Northern and Eastern Europe. In a part of Russia called Kaliningrad, satellite imagery shared exclusively with CNN indicates that Russia is on the move, appearing to upgrade 4 of its military installations in Kaliningrad. This is significant because this Russian region is said to be on the doorstep of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and that's why NATO members are concerned about Russia's action there.
What is NATO? Why is it important? And what's its future? The North Atlantic Treaty Organization is a political and military alliance established in 1949 that seeks to promote stability in the North Atlantic area.
It is the will of the people of the world for freedom and for peace.
Led by Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg, there are 29 member countries, and its HQ is in Brussels. NATO doesn't have its own troops, but relies on contributions of forces from its member countries. At NATO's core is Article 5, which states an attack on one member is an attack on all NATO allies. The collective defense principle was to protect Western European nations against the Soviet Union. But when the Soviet Union collapsed, NATO's new tasks ranged from being a bulwark against Al-Qaeda in Afghanistan to fighting human trafficking and intercepting refugees in the Mediterranean. NATO is still extremely active, with some 4,000 US troops in Poland and the Baltic states, and tens of thousands on 48-hour standby, bolstering NATO's allies and sending a clear message to Russia.
Now, we said Kaliningrad was on the doorstep of NATO. This Russian region is actually separated from mainland Russia. That's what makes it an exclave, a territory surrounded by other countries, and in this case, those nations include Lithuania and Poland. Both of them are members of NATO. So if Russia appears to be fortifying its military in Kaliningrad, which the country has pointed out it has the right to do, you can see why it would raise concerns among NATO allies. They're currently conducting military exercises in their own show of strength. CNN's Fred Pleitgen is sailing with the U.S. Navy.
The USS Iwo Jima off the coast of Iceland. In the hangar deck, Marines gearing up for an air assault. Retaliation if there's an attack on a U.S. ally. The exercise also a deterrent as the North Atlantic region becomes more contested. With this exercise, the U.S. and its allies are practicing their response in case a friendly nation gets attacked. While the adversary in this exercise is fictitious, it comes at a time of growing tensions between the U.S. and Russia. As the Marines race to the Icelandic coast, new evidence that Russia is beefing up its capabilities right in the heart of Europe. CNN has exclusively obtained satellite images from the Israeli firm ImageSat International, seemingly showing massive construction work at Russia's bases in Kaliningrad, upgrading a nuclear storage facility there, adding new, bigger ammunition bunkers, and upgrading the military airfield. Is Vladimir Putin building up his military in Kaliningrad? Russia's defense ministry didn't respond to CNN's request for information. But the commander of U.S. naval forces in Europe and Africa tells me there's a pattern of Russia upgrading its capabilities in the region.
They're putting a lot of their modern weapon systems, anti-ship cruise missiles, radars, the Bastion system, the S-300 and S-400 in there.
Sending a message of strength to Moscow, the U.S. and its NATO allies are gearing up for an even bigger exercise in Norway.
If they want to challenge us, we will challenge them. We're not going to be intimidated by those systems that are out there.
And that challenge is now playing out in the North Atlantic region, with an increasingly assertive Russia and the U.S. showing it won't back down. Fred Pleitgen, CNN, aboard the USS Iwo Jima in the Atlantic Ocean.
10-second trivia. What is measured by the SAE autonomy scale? Behavioral responsibility, banking security, driverless car levels, or robotic stability? SAE originally stood for Society of Automobile Engineers, and the group has established levels of driverless car autonomy. The U.S. government estimates that human error is at least partly to blame in more than 90% of car crashes. Those who support the idea of driverless cars say the computers that run them can avoid the mistakes that people make. But those have problems as well. Besides the potential for failures, malfunctions, errors, camera problems in heavy rain, one major concern of critics is, what if the computers of driverless cars are hacked? There may not be an answer for that yet, but the driverless technology itself continues to evolve.
Autonomous driving, we're told, is the way of the future. Autonomous cars featured heavily at this year's Paris Motor Show. But how can a computer deal with the randomness, the chaos of Parisian traffic? We decided to put that to the test. Our co-pilots today are engineers developing the technology that's already being sold to car makers. And where better to start than at the foot of the Eiffel Tower.
So now the car is driving itself?
Yes.
You're not involved at all?
No.
No pedal, no wheel, no nothing?
No. I got my hands on my knees.
Which should be a dangerous thing given the cyclists, scooters and pedestrians. Not to mention the bad drivers who do have their hands on the wheel. But Benoit says the car sensors are more efficient than the human brain.
And as you can see, there is a pedestrian here, and we're going to slow because it's detected, and then when the pedestrian is off the crossing area...
And even if the pedestrian had come much faster, the car would have done that? It's programmed to stop?
Yes.
The technology is part programmed, part learnt. Through its many cameras, sensors, computers and radars, the car's artificial intelligence allows it to learn as it goes.
It's just always focused on its own task, which is driving me safely from point A to point B.
So that car did something very rude.
Yeah.
It just cut across you, and the car felt it.
Yes.
And it didn't even complain.
No.
There was no tooting of the horn. There will always be an element of risk, won't there? Even for computers?
The zero fault doesn't exist. What we want to show is that we're able to drive during 1 billion hours without any problem.
And that's much better than human beings.
Yeah, of course.
Perhaps the most surprising thing about all this is that this is likely to be an evolution rather than a revolution. Already, all of the sensors that exist on this car and that allow it to drive autonomously exist on the sorts of cars that you would buy today, ordinary cars. And so what's likely to happen is that little by little, we will get in the habit of letting go of the steering wheel until one day, all cars, even here in the French capital, drive themselves. Melissa Bell, CNN, Paris.
As if flying foxes weren't creepy enough, just in time for Halloween, the Oregon Zoo released x-rays of several of its inhabitants. They were taken during routine checkups at the zoo's veterinary center, so no animals were harmed in this perturbing production. Can't say the same for some of the humans who see it. But the next time a chameleon tries to change color on you, you can say, sorry buddy, but I've seen right through you. Make no bones about it, there's an X-ray of reasons why people wouldn't want X-ray vision. A skeleton of them, really. And those animal X-rays were simply radiating them. Those who are electromagnetically drawn to the idea are probably just operating on a different wavelength. I'm Carl Azus for CNN 10.